Hello, my loves. Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts, and welcome to my studio. Since discovering and falling in love with Tunisian crochet nearly 10 years ago, I've learned quite a bit. I've shared many of those tips in dozens of tutorial videos, but there are still a few challenges that can stump even the most enthusiastic beginner. In this video, I'm sharing over 20 of my favorite tips, tricks, and hacks to help you love Tunisian crochet as much as I do. As we go along, check the description below for links to the tools, yarns, and supplies I mentioned. Now let's dive into these hacks. Types of hooks are one of the main differences between traditional and Tunisian crochet. You can learn a lot from a straight hook just like this. Notice that the hook has no adornments or ergonomic shaping. For Tunisian crochet, we need a hook with a consistent gauge all the way down the hook so we can hold on to multiple loops. Pop a rubber band on the end of the hook to keep your loops from falling off. Now this hook does limit the width of your project, so eventually you're gonna need a longer hook for a bigger project. One option is a straight hook like this. It's about 9 inches long and it has a stopper on one end. A longer hook like this allows you to create narrow projects like scarves and dishcloths. Once you graduate beyond small accessories, you're gonna need a corded hook. Corded hooks give you the benefit of length without all that weight of a long metal hook. There are several great sets on the market, but I am super proud to share these right here. I developed these hooks in collaboration with Whter Crochet. Besides being gorgeous and super smooth, they also come with 2 hooks per size, making them perfect for Tunisian crochet in the round. There are only 1,000 sets available, so mark your calendars for Monday, June 2nd to get a set from Whter Crochet's website. Any good Tunisian crochet teacher is going to tell you to go up 1 to 2 full millimeter sizes larger on your hook than what is recommended on the yarn ball. Here's why. Tunisian crochet creates a lot of tension on the front of the project, and adjusting your hook size helps ease that tension. This swatch was made with a 6 millimeter hook, which is what the yarn ball recommends. You can see that it's curling a lot and the stitches are very tight. On the other side, this swatch was made with an 8 millimeter hook, which is 2 millimeters larger than the recommended size. You can see there are lots of gaps in the fabric, but we have achieved a better drape. The swatch in the middle was made with a 7 millimeter hook, which is 1 millimeter larger than recommended. Don't be afraid to adjust your hook size until you get a fabric that you love. To start your Tunisian crochet project, begin with a chain that is the same number of stitches as you need for the project. Be sure to keep your chains loose, and that will ensure you won't have any issue working into them in the next step. Next, we're going to rotate the chain towards us to locate the back bumps of the chain. We're going to work in the back bumps as opposed to the front loops of the chain, just so we can leave the V's of the chain exposed for a nice clean edge on the bottom of our work. Starting in the second chain from the hook, pull up a loop in each chain all the way down the line. From here, we'll do the return pass. Start with a chain 1, so yarn over, pull through 1 loop, and then from there we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops until there is just 1 loop left on the hook. At this point, you're ready to build your Tunisian crochet fabric. If you're a knitter, you likely know all about the long tail cast on. It creates a stretchy beginning to your project and mimics the foundation we just learned in the last tip. We can use this cast on for Tunisian crochet as well. Leave a 4-inch tail and wrap the yarn around your hook once for each stitch needed. Then create a slip knot. Make sure the long tail is held towards you and begin to cast on. As you cast on, make sure you focus on tension and keeping that tension loose. Each of those loops counts as a stitch, so if they're too tight, it's going to be hard to move them up and down the hook. In my experience, I like to size up about a half or a full millimeter on my hook when I do this cast on, and then switch to the size needed for the body of the work. When you're done with your cast on, use the tail that's coming from the ball to complete the return pass, and then weave in the remaining end when your project is done. If your first stitch looks like this, and you want it to look like this, here is a very simple fix. Before starting the row, tighten the loop that's already on the hook. Then hold on to this loop as you make the next couple of stitches to keep it from stretching out. This loop is what creates the V of that first stitch, and tightening it down is going to make your starting stitches even and uniform. Let's pop over to the other side of our work. If your last stitch looks like this, and you want it to look like this, you need to find the two loops that make up the last stitch. If you're having trouble finding that last stitch, use your fingers to pull the edge of the fabric away from the work. You're going to see two sets of V's sitting on top of each other, this top set and this bottom set. The top set is for the top of the stitch, so we're looking for the bottom set of V's. Instead of just going through the front loop of this stitch, find that front loop as well as the shadow. I call it that because it sits just behind the front loop and is about half as high. Slip your hook under both of these loops together on your last stitch and pull up a loop to complete that stitch. A pointy hook helps a lot. If you're still having trouble finding that last stitch, don't worry, you are not the only one. Here's a trick to help you find that last stitch, and you're gonna need a stitch marker. I started a fresh foundation row and I'm about to do my return pass. The first step is to chain one. Now remember that a chain has a left loop, a right loop, and a back loop. We're gonna use our marker to catch the back loop and the left loop of the chain one we just made. From there, we're going to proceed with the rest of our return pass. When you're ready to do the last stitch on the next row, insert your hook into the same space as your stitch marker. This takes the guesswork out of completing that last stitch. And for anybody who's a little wary about using this stitch marker trick, keep in mind that stitch markers are a bit like training wheels. There's no shame in it, and use them for as long as you need. If you're still struggling to grab the loops of your return pass, you need this tip. It's really quick. Just start by scooting the loops up before you start your return pass. This avoids having to move the hook too much, and it helps the loops just jump right off the head of the hook. Speaking of the return pass, sometimes it can get a little tight. If you need to add some elasticity to your Tunisian crochet fabric, here's how. On the return pass, add a chain one after you yarn over and pull through two loops. Like this. Yarn over, pull through two loops, then yarn over and pull through one loop. That extra chain does add some fabric to the back of your work, but it also creates built-in elasticity. Just make sure you allot a bit of extra yarn for this technique. If you're enjoying this video so far, go ahead and give me a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I've got a feeling you like it here. I am closing in on 1 million subs, and your help gets me one step closer. Thank you so much for the support, and now let's get back to the tips. To count your rows, look for the vertical bars in your stitches. Each little bar is one row. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on rows. For more textured stitches where you can't see the bars, count the V's on the side of your work, right here. Now for the stitches, you can again count the bars on the front of your work. For more complicated stitch patterns, you can also count the loops that are on your hook. One thing no one talks about is how thick Tunisian crochet fabric is. Since one row takes a forward pass and a return pass, the resulting fabric can be quite dense, especially compared to knitting and traditional crochet. Now, this isn't a bad thing, but it is something to consider depending on the project you're making. If you want to go cozy, a denser stitch like Tunisian simple stitch, rib stitch, or knit stitch are a good idea. If you want something airier, try for a lighter stitch like mesh, lace, or honeycomb. You can also adjust your yarn weight for a thicker or thinner fabric. For example, these patterns are identical. One is made with DK weight yarn and a larger hook, and the other is made with fingering weight yarn and a smaller hook. The thinner shawl has more drape, but won't hold as much heat. And the thicker shawl, that one's gonna be way more cozy, but the fabric is heavier. This one is less of a tip and more of a recommendation. Now that you know how Tunisian crochet fabric behaves, here are 3 small projects that you can start with. First is the Charming Trio. This is 3 projects in one: a washcloth, a pot holder, and a dish towel. This project includes a full tutorial video to help you master color changes, special stitches, and keeping consistent gauge. Then there's the fan favorite Mesa hat. It includes similar stitches to the Charming Trio, but this time you can make a comfy slouch hat with traditional crochet features and some simple shaping. This one has a full tutorial video as well, plus an accompanying scarf. Finally, there's one of my favorites, the Adventurous Scarf. This one is made with fingering weight mini skeins, but don't let that thin yarn scare you. You'll start with just 3 stitches, and the pattern guides you through some gentle shaping and color changes. And you guessed it, this one has links to helpful videos to get you through. Now that you've started a project, here are 2 ways to store that work in progress. First, you can slide your project down the cord and away from the hook. The stopper is going to keep the loop safe from sliding off. Drop this into your project bag and you're ready to go. The other way is to work your project until there's only 1 loop left on the hook. Drop the hook and put in a locking stitch marker. I'd avoid split ring markers for this one. Locking stitch markers will keep things nice and secure. When it's time to pull your project out of the bag, you'll need to get oriented first. Were you on the forward pass or the return pass? Let's find out. If the first loop on the hook is coming out of the vertical stitch, you'll want to keep working the forward pass. And if the first loop on your hook is coming out of the horizontal chain, you'll want to continue working the return pass. I'm dropping this tip here because every beginner needs to hear it. Curling is normal. When you're making flat Tunisian crochet fabric, you are constantly pulling up loops on the front of the fabric. This creates a lot of tension on the front of the work, thus curling towards the front of the work. Just know that this is normal. You're not doing anything wrong, but the next few tips will give you some ideas on how to deal with the curl. We talked about it earlier, so I won't go in depth again, but just keep in mind that a larger hook does help with dense fabric and it will help to soften the curl. Even going up just a ½ millimeter can make a huge difference. Just know that the larger your hook, the more lacy and open your stitches will be. We also talked about stitches a little while ago, and here we're going to go more in depth. Dense stitches like full stitch and knit stitch are going to curl like crazy. Right in the middle, we have the simple stitch. Not quite as thick, but still curly. Then we have lace, mesh, and combined stitches. Lace and mesh use yarn over spaces to create airiness. This gives the tension somewhere to escape. Combination stitches use a stitch that pulls to the front, combined with a stitch that pulls to the back. These stitches cancel each other out, helping the fabric lay flat. The best example of this is the Tunisian honeycomb stitch. Another way I've seen recommended to deal with the curl is to add a border to your project. Tunisian crochet edges leave these nice little V's free. Just slip your hook under those V's and start with a round of single crochet stitches. Before you start, be sure to drop your hook size to what is recommended for that yarn to get nice even gauge. At the corners, chain 2 to work along the next edge. Personally, I find this method is not guaranteed and it doesn't often give me the results I really want, which is calming down the curl. But a border does add a nice frame to your piece. I know you don't want to hear about it, but weaving in ends is absolutely imperative with Tunisian crochet. Here's how to do it. To weave in your ends, flip to the back of your work. There is a collection of loops that makes it really easy to hide those tails. Start by working vertically under a few loops and then move in the opposite direction, and you can even go one more time for good measure. That tail is going nowhere. I'm a big proponent of blocking, and I've shared several ways to block your Tunisian crochet and traditional crochet pieces. My two favorite methods are steam blocking, like I'm showing here, and wet blocking. Steam blocking is a gentler process, which requires you to pin down your piece and then steam it to lightly soften the fabric and even out your stitches. Wet blocking is a little bit more aggressive, requiring you to completely submerge your piece in water and then pin it down, allowing it to fully dry. Both of these methods work well for natural fibers, though I do recommend steam blocking for acrylic fibers. I've got links to tutorials for both wet and steam blocking below. Whichever method you choose, be sure to pin your item right side down to help soften the curl even more. I've taught dozens of Tunisian crochet classes around the country, and one thing I've learned is most folks are terrified when they walk in. This is something new, it looks different, and of course there's a chance you might not get it right away. But here's the thing, you're not doing it wrong, you're just doing it for the first time. Your hands, your brain, your tension, they're all learning a new rhythm. So if your stitches are uneven, your edges are wonky, or you forget what pass you're on, you're doing it right. This is how learning works. Give yourself some grace, keep showing up. With every row, you're not just making progress on your project, you're developing a new superpower. Practice doesn't make perfect, my love. Practice makes progress. And there you have it, over 20 of my favorite tips on making your Tunisian crochet even better. Drop down below and let me know which tip is your favorite, or share a tip that I might have missed. If you found any of these tips helpful, make sure you share this video with the crochet friend that you know needs it. Now, if you're ready to dive even deeper into Tunisian crochet, check out the dozens of patterns and stitches that I have on my blog, toycblog.com, or grab a signed copy of my book, The Tunisian Crochet Handbook. All right, y'all, enough gabbing. It's time to get some stitching in. Thank you so much for hanging with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.